everybody. Welcome to the You're Too Valuable podcast. I am Gregory, one of your fantastic uh, podcast hosts. We have a couple of other ones that are here with me. I'll let them introduce themselves. Go for it, gentlemen.
Hey guys, it's Robbie. Good to see you guys. Glad to be here for this episode. This is going to be some exciting stuff.
Hey everybody, it's Jesse. Hope everyone has been having a great week and it's really good to be here again. Looking forward to a great conversation today.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too, as well, because I mean, a lot of people I think can kind of relate to this topic. It's about green, yellow, and red flags when it comes to your job and what you're looking for, and when you're choosing that job, and just that overall mindset that you have, and then what you're looking for in for yourself can be completely different based on person to person. The one thing that I need to do for for those of you who cannot see who are listening to us, I have to call out something real quick. Robbie over here is glitching big time, and I think it's because he's still upset about his Knights just blowing such a huge lead inside of the NHL Finals. So I think he's just kind of sad and kind of glitching out a little bit. And if you guys can't see him, or if y'all can't see him, he's not wearing his hat either. So I was quite happy to see that yesterday and kind of texting him. So I'm so sorry, Robbie. I really
No, you're
am.
not.
I personally was rooting for them. I've always loved since the Golden Knights became a team. They've been a stellar team right out the gate and in great competition for the Stanley Cup championship. Avalanche, good old team right there. But yeah, it's all good. It's gonna be
That's all right. That's all right. They were the better team. The way we played the last two and a half games, we deserved to lose. So I'm
Yeah,
not.
it
I'm
would
not
be
a sore.
great if
I'm
y'all
not a
played
sore
like that
loser like
against the
some of us
Habs,
on
you
this
know?
podcast. You know what I'm saying?
and cross state support. You know,
There we
very
go.
No,
United
no
States is
support
in
from here. I
Colorado.
was super excited when they lost. It was fantastic. Highlight of my week, that's for sure. Maybe of the
That says a
month.
lot. That says a lot about your week.
I know, right?
This is a lot
It's not
about your
all
job.
that, all not all that. We're not everything,
I hope your employer's watching this.
right? Oh, an employee. We've been doing a lot of work, and I was like sitting here like for
HR does a
probably
lot
about
of
9 to 10 hours
work. Come
today,
on, Greg.
doing all kinds of crap. Whatever. I'm glad people can't see that. Anyways, so let's get back to the topic at hand about the green, yellow, and red flags when choosing a job. Um, how many of us have actually seen or been able to see those red flags and just threw it out the window that you didn't want to look at it because maybe it was great compensation, or it was a work from home job, or your friend talked you into doing it? Have we done that?
I'm gonna come out right out the gate and say if you don't look at your company that you're applied to on Glassdoor or Google reviews, you're doing yourself a disservice. You gotta research these companies that you're applying for
And
unless
listen closely during the interview process.
yes.
So
Ask
am I hearing that yes,
questions.
we have skipped by the red flags, or just not wanted to notice them? What
Oh
would
yeah.
you say?
When I was younger, for sure, I did.
Yeah, me too.
Do you think it's easier to do that once you're younger?
Yeah, because you don't know what you're looking for. We aren't really trained. We're kind of just trained to go out there and get that job, and you're going to do great things, and you could conquer the world. And
Well,
I think
some
we're a
of
little
us.
bit more motivated. And I think as more jobs come in our tenure, the beat down happens, and we start to pay attention to things that could be potentially a pattern. Um, Now that I coach people, from a career standpoint, I will definitely say that I have no problem telling people be mindful of that. Pay very, very, very close attention to that throughout the interview process. Let's go look it up on Glassdoor. Let's go look it up on Indeed. See
Yeah.
if this is a pattern because this could potentially be your worst effing nightmare. So
Yeah,
So
I
you're
mean, for me,
saying that?
especially,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jesse.
especially coming right out the gate after college and wanting to get my first like career job when I was graduating, I was applying like crazy, and I knew the position that I wanted to be food and beverage manager or like restaurant manager and kitchen manager, that sort of thing, because my background was in culinary and food and beverage management. So, um, but man, it was down to the wire. I think I got my first job out of college like a week before I graduated.
Yeah. And it's like you almost don't really care or even look into that. You really don't even realize if there's red, green, or yellow flags. You just like, oh my gosh, I'm super excited. Let me just jump right into there and go from there. But you don't have
Yep.
that experience. You don't understand what's going on there, especially right out of college, because that's kind of something that they really don't teach you inside of college. And that's some of the things that it kind of aggravates me is they don't teach you a lot of real life situations apart from what your job is going to be, not like interviewing and stuff like that. They do, just not as in depth as I think it would be beneficial.
I think it's actually gotten worse. Since I was younger, I do feel like working conditions have become a little bit more black and white with the green and red flags. Companies are starting to do fucking 15 interview rounds and
Oh yeah, don't get me
making
started
people
on that. On the number of interviews.
making people jump through hoops only to be told towards the very end that they're going in a different direction. I feel like people should be able to send a bill for all the time that was wasted during those processes because these companies lead people on just to see what's out there, and I'm seeing it a
Yeah.
lot. Where they get through 6 or 7 rounds of interviews, and then all of a sudden they're no longer hiring for the position.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
or they just ghost you, and
Right.
that's
Yeah.
the thing is, and
Yeah.
I've seen that a lot, and I think we may have an actual personal story about that. But what I wanted to do is kind of like
Yep.
lump it all together on the fact of you're looking for those green, yellow, and red flags in the entire process. And this is all the way from the job posting to your interview to the offer and any of those like benefit packages that you can get. And the thing that I'm looking for is like your total compensation. And I know y'all hate when I
Hmm.
say total compensation, but that's
I
that's
don't.
part of it. What's going to happen, and it's not just the salary that you're looking for. You're looking at everything, and
Right.
when we're younger, we may not understand that that's what we need to look for, but that's something that's gonna grow you and make you who you are. Would y'all
Yep.
agree with that?
I
Hmm.
do. I think that there's a variety of things that people need to be paying close attention to. The wording in the job posting itself, the job description, the interview process, paying very close attention to what interviewers are asking, what they're indicating to you, the expectations that are being set, the offer, really just the fine print. You've got to make sure you're paying attention to that entire encompassing, premise of what the job is uh, before making a true final decision on what you're looking for. If people are told that they're not getting any PTO or they're not getting certain things, it's a pretty good indication that the company intends to work you into the ground, and you may be diving into the imaginary pool that doesn't exist in your backyard, as I always refer to. It's these are things that you really just need to pay very, very, very close attention to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I honestly don't have anything against companies doing multiple rounds of interviews or aptitude tests or things like that. I actually am on the side of doing a full screening process, and I think just the same way that the employee candidates should be doing the same thing, but you need to be keeping people updated and in the loop and where they're at in the hiring process, and keep them informed so that they're not pulling back on job applications because they
Yep.
think they're going to be getting this position. And I do agree that the company the company is evaluating you, but you also need to be evaluating the company. Use
Oh
the
yeah,
time
1000%.
when they have to ask the questions, but ask the right appropriate questions at the right stages. There's only so much that a recruiter or a HR is going to be able to answer compared to someone that's working in cross department or the department, or when you get to your final department head interview. You have to have tailored questions as well with that,
Yep.
and it makes a world difference for how the interview goes.
Stop having effing tunnel vision, for
Hey,
just the
Ronnie,
salary
thank you for that. I appreciate you actually
and the title.
kind of bleeping that out. That's so. I'm going to give you two very enthusiastic thumbs up there. Thank you.
Oh,
Fuck that, Greg.
boy.
Oh, okay,
And,
that didn't last long.
and fuck the Avalanche.
That really didn't last that long.
I'm just kidding.
I know we normally go with like the really bad stuff and try to end on a high note. And so this time I kind of want to reverse that a little bit, and let's start on the green flags, because I kind of think most people don't understand green flags and they don't understand yellow flags, but they all understand red flags.
Red light, green light.
Right, yeah. So let's. Oh no, that's not red light, green light. That just reminds me of the TV show. Absolutely love it. But anyways, so green flags. What are green flags? Any type of examples that you could give us that we think most people wouldn't even think about?
Feedback from other employees, for sure.
Yeah.
Knowing someone that's worked in the company that has been there before or is a current employer, looking at reviews of the business that you might be going to manage, the locations that they manage, the locations that they own, their headquarter location reviews, their Glassdoor reviews, like their company pages, their how in depth they get into about on their corporate websites, but yeah, no, current or former employee reviews are going to be huge.
Yeah. I would say that, green flags are definitely how the interview process goes. I'm going all the way back to this. If the process is 2 to 3 rounds, that's pretty respectable. There's no reason to have more than 3 rounds of interviews. If they are, they're just stringing you along. You might get hired, you most likely won't. That many
I don't know
interviews.
about that. I might have to disagree with you a little bit there. I mean, I know that's shocking, Robbie, but I might have to disagree with you a little bit there. Depends on the job and depends on the position, but on the most part, okay, I'll give you 3. But continue.
But I mean, realistically, what can't you learn in 3 interviews? Hour-long interviews.
Culture fit
You're
is a big
base
one.
A culture fit. Yeah, you're basically determining. So have one of those on site. Have one of those interacting with current employees. Be a little bit more mindful of people's time. People are already worked into the ground enough as it is. At the end of the day, people are like freaking out trying to make interviews, trying to get away from that toxic work environment, while also fearing not being able to meet their financial obligations, because there's a pretty huge percentage of Americans right now that are living paycheck to paycheck, and most
Oh,
companies know that, especially the ones that are trying to string you along and see what's out there, and putting up job postings for the tax benefits involved with having those job postings and never actually hiring for them. it's just corporate bullshit that I think that we can mitigate, and I think we can get back to a place where it's a respectable uh, two-way conversation, a two-way interaction, and not just smoke and mirrors. And I think that the company doesn't want smoke and mirrors. I think that the worker also deserves no smoke and mirrors.
Well, I kind of find it actually funny that we started off trying to talk about green flags, but yet it almost went like all the way almost back to red flags like that quick. It was super
It was
simple.
because you were arguing with me, Greg.
And let's talk about green flags and what they
Okay.
actually can do. I really liked what Jesse was talking about, looking at those reviews on Glassdoor or Google, or wherever you like to look at your reviews for the type of industry that you're in, making sure that they actually read genuine and that they sound like they're from an actual individual. Because
Yes.
sometimes you can have those, and the other part that just irks me as being in HR is, those of, oh, you've only been here for like 2 days, let's get your review done, and that, or your review of the company done. Everybody's going to love the company at 2 days in. I'm talking about a year, 6 months. Give me some time
Mhm.
frame, but making sure that they actually read genuine and they're not forced. Or you look at five or six of reviews and they say pretty much exactly the same thing.
Mhm.
Is the company telling them to say that, or they're giving them the script per se to say? So the green flags is seeing if they're genuine. How they look and how they act. And then my biggest one is the green flag is looking at that job posting, the job description, going into your job interview, and everything is crystal clear that was posted in the job description. That other part of other duties as assigned is not really the number one bullet point in the job description. It is actually what they're talking about in there. And it's not
Yeah, that's a red
just
flag to me.
a computer AI generated job description. They've gone through there and actually made some edits to the actual job description. And what they're talking about is exactly what you read, because it's not that bait and switch. And that's the thing I really like about it is like, if you're going to tell me my job is this, but I come into an interview and it's a sales position, I'm like, I don't know sales. I'm the worst person at sales. Why would I would have never applied for this job. So I think that's the biggest one, is making sure that that clarity is there.
I agree. And I think that, just having that upfront direction and setting the correct expectations early, even from the interview process to signing an offer letter, like who you're going to be reporting to, how decisions are made. These are really important things to pay very close attention to. What your first couple of weeks on the job look like are really an indicator of what the culture is like. If they're sitting you in a broom closet in the back room with a computer where, people are coming in just yelling and talking over you while you're trying to learn things, that's not a conducive environment for people to learn, and they feel kind of on their own island. Like they're not being included as a part of the team. They're kind of in this invisible cloak corner of the room. Those are not good environments. It's just there's so many things that go into creating those green flags, where people feel like they belong. And that starts with immediately after that offer letter is signed. And I think companies need to get back to that. Some companies have never been about that life, but
Yeah,
at the
for
end
sure.
at the end of the day, I feel like companies have slashed their training budgets. So they're poaching talent from their competitors, so they don't have to pay for those budgets just to
Hmm.
appease investors. And that's a whole different topic for potential yellow red flags. But I think that it starts immediately after that offer letter is signed.
Yep. A couple others for me would be them asking you, like where you want to go in your career projection and sharing stories of either people that they manage or themselves, where they've been able to go with the company. One that had started out as a task force employee and then promoted to regional, and that was a great story. That's definitely a green flag to be like, that's good. They're already talking about the opportunities that are available within the company, and just having that open conversation with you as well to get to know you a little bit better and to know if that's promotion is going to be something that you're really going to be wanting to seek well with that company.
Yeah, that's so true, because if they have some clear examples of advancement in the company and that's something that you want to do yourself, that is definitely a green flag, because it's like, oh, hey, they actually have that mindset out there of, they're willing to develop their people and train them and make sure that they can advance in their own careers, and they're not just stuck there at one particular end. And I think that's a
Mm-hmm.
fantastic point there, Jesse, because companies who just want a worker or a warm body in there won't have that example or have that. So that's actually a really good question that you were talking about earlier. Ask those good questions and those thoughtful questions when you're in your interview process. That's something that you can say, hey, give me an example of a time where somebody went from this to this, and how did they progress there? And just listen, because if they're like well, they did this and this and this, yeah, okay, I don't know about that. uh, One of my biggest green flags is when people respond to you in a timely fashion. I am big on that in the HR world of, I want to make sure that I respond to you timely. Now, did things fall through the cracks? Absolutely. But is it a consistent basis where things just fall through the cracks, quote unquote, all the time? No. That's just going to tell you, you're not a priority. Is that what it's going to look like when you're actually there? So having that clear, follow up, that clear direction, where you're going, it means a lot to me, because I want crystal clear communication, crystal as well as you can get, inside of a business, to have that communication to me whenever I need it. And if you're not going to show that to us in like a job interview, how is that going to be during the actual job itself?
Yeah.
Now,
I think that
go ahead, Brody. Sorry.
supervisors that have a tendency to make new employees earn their respect in the beginning, even like with that reporting process, like before job duties begin, I think is where we can kind of segue into yellow flags. How do you gentlemen feel about that? um,
Yes, yes. Power hungry.
So, Robbie, do me a
uh,
favor. Can you explain to me what? And I'm kind of confused myself. So, I really would like for you to explain, what is a yellow flag.
it can be looked at as a green flag to some people. It can be perceived as a red flag to others. I
Oh,
think that comes down to previous experience, at different workplaces for people. It can go either direction. There's certain catchphrases that, you have to kind of pay close attention to. Somebody might be just trying to, get the team motivated and pumped up, but on the flip side of that, that may be the culture itself. Um, you know, Vagueness in descriptions. I think that there's a lot of things that can really go into that. Um, you know, uh, Interviews being more than 3 to 5 rounds, that can be a red flag, a yellow flag. And for me, I think it's a red flag. For you, you obviously think it's kind of a green flag. So, uh, you know, with that
depends on
being
the
said,
job.
Consistent, consistent
that's
turnover. Employees that haven't worked there you know, for sure, only been there. Lots of short-term employees when the company has been around for
Oh wow.
decades.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think that was a great explanation of that, Robbie. And that's kind of what I was thinking of is that a yellow flag is going to be somebody like, or something that can be a red flag for somebody and a green flag, a flag for somebody else. So, you know,
Yeah.
I kind of understand that. And that's kind of interesting the way that that works because one of the things that kind of comes to mind for me as a yellow flag and something that is highly a red flag for me, but it's fantastic for other people is like a micromanager. When a micromanager comes through in an interview or the interview process, some people absolutely love a micromanager because they need to be told what to do all the time. Or you know somebody who does not like to be told what to do every single day and likes to have a mind and you know kind of a go-getter for my you know I know I'm saying this to kind of boast myself, but somebody who just likes to go out there and do things and doesn't need a handheld. Oh, I don't. I'm trying to say non micromanager without being rude, but because some micromanage is good for some people.
Hands on is the words that you're looking for.
Yeah. See, there you go. Hands on. There you go. And so I like that. Thank you. And so that could be a yellow flag. It's not necessarily a green flag for me. Definitely not. It could be a green flag for other
Hmm.
people. And
Yeah.
so I think that's a really good way of saying that, Robbie. Is that allows us to look at it as almost like the gray area per se.
I mean, I don't. I know that Jesse hasn't had the opportunity to speak on this very much, but I do have one point. Where I think, Greg, if you and I read the same job description and we read, we work hard and play hard, and we
Work hard,
read,
play harder.
we read statements in the job description like we're like family here. I think that you and I are going to perceive these two things very, very differently.
No, no, no. I don't. I am very much against the whole we are like family at this job. I don't know about y'all, but my family, I don't want to treat my coworkers like family because we're a little rough with each other and definitely not HR appropriate with family, whether that be your chosen family or your blood family. And so, no,
See, that friendly smack talk is what gets me motivated. That's what fires
yeah,
me up ready to
exactly.
go.
It helps. So again, is it a yellow flag then? You know, who knows?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, that and some people again, that's why that's a yellow flag. Some people do want to have a job where they work hard, play harder. Going around doing trade shows and knocking back drinks with other people from trade shows at the end of the night and sleeping around and on the road traveling and stuff. Some people want that environment.
That is
But
definitely not where I
it's
thought you were going with the sleeping around. So I'm glad we clarified that, Jesse.
Okay, y'all. Let's keep back in track of yellow flags and not sleeping around.
but a good one too. Every question about work-life balance gets answered with the story about someone who loves being busy. What?
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, we have a great work-life balance at this company, but oh, you're required to travel 80% of the time.
Is it
You're
really a
gonna
work life balance with that much travel?
Yeah, exactly. This person is amazing, but they, oh yeah, we have them in the office on Saturdays a lot. Like what? No. So,
Well, one of the things that I look at as a yellow flag because I again, I might be an anomaly here, but the whole startup reference of if somebody's been in a startup, how long is startup for, and how long can that be? For me, a startup, is going to be like 15 years, 20 years,
hmm
because it takes a long time for a company to get established, get into the market, and kind of be around for a little bit. Some people may look at a startup and like startup is only like 1 or 2 years old, 3 years
yeah,
old, and I'm like, I don't know if I can do that because
5.
you know I've worked for startups before. I absolutely love working for startups because that's the my mentality of the go getter and just get things done. And so I'm okay with that, and I think startups are a fantastic green flag. Some people would say not. Also, for what is it called? Where they're equity based. they're equity firms or whatever. I forget what that actually is called, but they're done by equity people and not necessarily an owner, and that can be looked at as negative too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know, I typically recommend to my clients to find out how long their interviewer's been at the company. Um, it's, in my opinion, a red flag, but it could be construed as a yellow flag. Somebody's been there for less than, 6 months. What the fuck are we doing? Like are we just having a general conversation? Like it takes 6 months for somebody to actually learn the job, to learn where they're going. Obviously, they can bring skills from another place,
Mm-hmm.
but they know nothing. I
100%.
mean, realistically, they're having nightmares. Their brain is
They're having
waking them up in cold sweats as they're learning the process of working there. They have no idea what they're doing. I typically tell people, be mindful if your interviewers have been there less than 2 years, and if it's a pattern, like you're going through multiple rounds and everybody's been there less than 2 years, that's very telling. You need to be very mindful of that and pay very close
Mm-hmm.
attention. So just
And
Well,
that's
and
my
see,
perspective.
I have to. Again, I know this is going to be shocking to all of our listeners out there. I might disagree with you a
shocker.
little bit there, Robbie, because people don't stay at jobs that long anymore. So having somebody there for 2 years is
Mm,
about average, and I think that's fine.
You typically have somebody that's going to be there for quite a while. You should have those people interviewing. Not
Is
everybody
that true though?
leaves. Not everybody leaves.
not at
Uh,
every
you know,
level.
not at every level. And I think that
Yeah, that's true.
I just it's definitely something to have on your radar as a yellow flag, in my
I guess
opinion.
that's why it's the definition of a yellow flag because it can go one way or the other, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Ding, ding, ding.
Now,
Why is
Jesse,
the why is the why has the role been open for 3 months?
uh,
But this is an
Exact.
urgent hire. That's a yellow flag.
well,
Hmm.
what about whenever they have like a salary range posted or they have a very large salary range? Oh, we're going to hire from 65 to $135,000.
Red flag, competitive pay,
Yeah,
competitive.
competitive pay, or in some states that don't require a salary to be published or to be quoted on a job posting, and they're like don't want to talk about it. Jesse, have you had
Mhm.
that where you're like, oh, let's talk about this?
Hmm. Yeah, I was gonna um, backpack off of get into your role and how long it does take to 6 months is a good point, where if you're sitting down with someone and you're asking them, what does my first 90 days look like? And, I've been told in the past, oh, you could be working, 60, 70 hours a week, and it's like, why? Is it because I'm
60, 70
cleaning?
hours a week.
Is it because I'm gonna have to spend my first 3 months of cleaning up from the person that was in my position that you've let go completely vacant for this time and haven't put any task force
Mhm.
manager in their place or person to spread out their just their roles and stuff, and I walk into a business that has bills that are shut off statements coming in for utilities and stuff because the bills aren't getting paid. Like, if that's going to be the reason, well, then count on me on you not seeing any progress
Mhm.
of me getting that role and being able to shine because I'm spending the first 90 days cleaning up after you. One of my first days on a job working as a banquet manager, I spent 12 hours in a banquet room, operational supply room, organizing linen and banquet supplies. About the first day for 12
Mhm.
hours.
Shouldn't you think that would be
Yeah,
something that should be automatic? I mean, you're part of a
yeah,
banquet team.
They
yeah.
just they didn't
But
have anybody.
going back to the salary part, and I'm sorry I kind of threw that out there, Jesse, and you were looking at other questions or wanting to respond. I know I'm kind of a little pushy sometimes. Go figure.
Yeah, no, the
Uh,
salary part for me is it's very frustrating when you see that big range or when they're with states that aren't required to post them at all. You obviously have a budget for this, and either you post the budgeted range or you're going to be greedy because you're failing in another financial part of the business and you're having to make up for it and you're trying to do it with labor. It happens all the time. Labor in most businesses is 40% of the cost to the hit of the bottom line. I get it. But if you're only trying to restructure that one salary position and try to get away with it because you're going to try and hire a new graduate into a job that's supposed to be for a more experienced person, then there you go ahead, but post it, put it out there, and have also what frustrates me sometimes is the experience required under in the job descriptions. So if you're having someone that's applying for an entry level position and it's an entry level pay, but then you're requiring 3 years of management experience, that doesn't add up. That's a yellow flag.
Yeah. And, I come from a sales background. So, in telecom, and I'll say this, that's, I work with about 60% of my clients are in sales, overall the last few years. And that's something, where companies get very deceptive is the salary versus the, sales targets, commission structure. They get very vague. I actually
Oh
just had
yeah.
a client. I just had a client last month, went through 3 rounds of interviews, and I was like, something about this feels stinky. It smells stinky. If it looks like shit, if it smells like shit, it's probably shit. And quite honestly,
I don't even know
we
how to
started
say
to
anything to that. That was just funny.
we started to dig, and the company put people on a 90-day salary, and they moved them directly to 100% commission, but did
Wow.
not indicate that into the job
Oh
description.
wow.
And
Wow.
my client was fucking furious, and she had every right to be, because
Hmm.
you're going to waste my time. And it was a lot of deflection. There was a lot of, oh, I'm not sure. We've been talking about changing the structure, sharing screenshots with me of emails and text messages. That level of deception is where I think we can segue kind of into the red flag situation. But I know Greg,
Okay.
you had something to say, and so did you, Jesse. So I just wanted to share that story because
Yes.
it's very common.
For me, the total compensation, Greg, the bonuses. If you're in a position that should be bonus and they say nothing about it during the hiring process, is hardly mentioned, and then when I bring it up, what goes in place? What are the gatekeepers to getting the different parts of the bonus? What's the total percentage of? Well, we have a spreadsheet for that. And it's like, always like this secret kind of thing. And then on top of it, okay, like is the bonus attainable? If you're gonna make that part of the compensation,
No,
if
I shouldn't
I
have to be doing a Goodwill Hunting, mathematical equation trying to figure out how to make money at this job.
yeah,
It's not
Sorry,
gonna work.
sorry,
Yeah.
Jesse, I didn't mean to
exactly.
interrupt you there.
No, you're good. But I have to know that if I come in and I bring, especially if I'm coming from a same industry with sales being part of my job background and contributing it to that, and I am able to shift over clients from one company to another, one location to another, cross sales utilization from state to state, and within the company, and I'm overly bringing in revenue way over your projections, and then operationally on top of it, I'm flowing most of that money to the bottom line instead of spending it on stuff that we need. You sure as hell better bet that I'd be beginning a portion of that. Come on.
Yeah.
No, I have to sit back and I'm just listening to you both, which I don't do very often because, I like to talk a lot. Go figure again. But it surprises me how easy we kind of revert back to those red flags, and that's why kind of I wanted to bring it towards the end is because we could spend this entire podcast that we are here just talking about red flags, and it kind of like figures that we kind of have done that almost talking about green flags, yellow flags, and we all end up back at red flags. And so let's just jump into that, and let's
Oh,
just
my
talk about
favorite.
more red flags. There's that's really sad, Robbie, that he's over here like, oh, we're going into the good part of it, the juiciness of it. One of the biggest red flags that I cannot stand, either as an employer in human resources or as an applicant that's looking for a job, is people who ghost people. And that is the number one red flag for me. Because if you're going to ghost me as a candidate, how are you going to treat me when you're an employee? If you're going to ghost me as an employer, what does that say about you as the employer? And I know
That you have shitty character.
I know there are some examples out there, and I don't know if somebody wants to share a personal story about that, because it blew my mind.
Happens a lot, Greg. Happens a lot. I see it every week, every single week, every single damn week since I've been doing career coaching and development for career professionals. I see it every week. It's like the new norm.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I understand that people are busy and they're inundated, and there's a lot of people that are applying for the positions out there. I completely get that. But once you have established communication and have someone that's going through the interview process, and then all of a sudden communication ceases, it just, I don't
Tells
know.
you everything you need to know about where you're going to be spending most of your
understand
time.
you're busy. Exactly. But most importantly, if it's coming from your direct report, that's a biggest red flag that you can have right there. Why would you want to work with someone that is supposedly too inundated in their communication workload to not communicate effectively with a potential
But
direct
Jesse,
report?
I'm really busy. I'm sorry, I can't get back to you.
Get an assistant.
The first
Been
couple
there,
of
done that.
I'm busy. I can just give me some slack here.
That
It's just
would
me. What do you
would have
think
been
we're hiring
great.
you for?
That would have been great to even hear. Didn't even hear that. Give me 2 weeks and I'll get back to you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And what's happening? The other thing that's happening right now too, in the personal story that I have to relate to, is that companies are hiring individuals for positions, and then they're keeping other candidates in the background and not telling them yes or no, because there's people are picking up and moving. They're getting into positions and seeing tons of red flags that they didn't see during the interview process, and they got another offer from another job because they've been applying to 25 a week, and so their broadband has been more out there. They might have got a better position, or they came to go to work at the location and notice that they're going to have to work 70 to 80 hours a week in the first 90 days to get it turned around. And I get that. But I even think that there's a opportunity there for them to be open and honest about that, hey, we have moved forward with one of the candidates. You were one of the top 3. We do want to have you be active in our system. If there are any jobs that come up and that are in your local market, or any other jobs that, if you're relocatable, still hang on to that candidate for future openings.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Not entirely ghost them, and then don't even, and especially when I've taken the time to go to your special website that you need to have me apply to as well, because after I've already applied through LinkedIn and Google Jobs and Indeed and Monster and all that, and then you also have me submit a company fucking application, and then you don't update the status in it. And
I think
you
Jesse
still
saw
leave
my
me as
social media
pending.
post last week.
That's rough.
When
Come
companies, hey,
on,
listen, it's
you know.
2026, folks. Companies, if you're going to make people veer off, a careers, you know, like a dedicated career site where you post jobs and you're going to make people come to your career, your internal career site, make sure your fucking AI is adequate to where it
Yes.
can, uh, render people's resumes properly. So it's not putting
Internal
job
internal
description.
cabinets.
I mean,
Okay,
it's so exhausting.
I want to kind of maybe play off of that whole AI thing. I don't know if anybody else has had this, but if you're out there, you're interviewing for jobs, and you start talking to somebody, and it's an AI person, or it's an
I've
AI,
heard of
it
that.
is not an actual person,
Uh,
or
Mhm.
a
okay.
company wants you to have the first quote unquote interview, but you're being
On video
interviewed by an AI bot and not by an actual individual.
or
Yeah,
on
or
video.
a
What the hell
video
is this video
recorded,
thing? What is
Yes.
this?
recorded video interview that they can review later.
That's a red flag to me.
And it's just like, if you're not going to take the time to speak to me one on one as a person and just have your AI come and do it, why would I spend my time with you in the first place?
Because
I know
companies are
AI is
having
being the
to
huge thing out
depend
there,
on it because
but yeah,
they're it's hard to hire recruiters that are talented recruiters right now for what they pay them, and they're having to use these other companies that are taking their milling jobs that and using their AI technology to filter out and get them candidates for a fee.
Yeah.
yeah, and that's
Human
I don't
capital is the most
understand it.
expensive expense for companies, and watching this whole thing play out is interesting because you can really kind of see it happening right before our very eyes. And the job descriptions start to become more and more blurred, and one interviewer says one thing, another interviewer says another thing. Uh, it's like, whoa, pump the fucking brakes. We talked about this last time. Well, yeah, we don't do. I have a personal story. I used to have a direct supervisor who liked to be involved, that hands-on thing that I was talking about, and like to do interviews, and he would take over my interviews, and he would be like, "Oh yeah, that job description doesn't apply." I'm like, and I remember looking at him as he said those words as we're on camera, because we were right next to each other on camera interviewing this person. And as he said that, I'm like, I'm working for someone that I cannot stand. Like, this is a shitty human being. Like, this
Yeah.
person wants to micromanage and do things their way. And people are kind of like, that's not what I read about this job. It doesn't make sense. And I don't know. It happens so frequently. I'm
Mm-hmm. Well,
I
and
feel
that's
very
and
sorry
that's
for
the
a lot
thing
of
is
people.
like, you're looking at all of this in its entirety, and that's why we kind of went through the green, yellow, red flags, because sometimes it doesn't matter who you are. Your red flags are not always red flags for everyone, and that's fine. You can
Mhm.
have your say in doing the way you want it to be, because that's your life, the way you do it. But look at those red flags, and what are red flags to you, and what allows you to say, okay, this is too much for me. I need to walk away. And that
Mhm.
to me
Exactly.
is, when are
It's hard.
you allowing yourself to say, hold on, I'm done. This is it. It's almost too toxic for me. Even in this situation that, I'm struggling. I need this job. I can't, afford to pay my rent next month because I don't have a job. Is
Companies are
that
banking on that.
Yeah,
That's why they
is
don't
that time
raise
for you to walk
wages.
away still, or do you need to just suck it up, as they can say?
Yes, you sometimes like for me, I just had to stop trying to communicate because I wasn't getting anything back and move on. And and figure out the next best step, and especially for me too. The next thing that we'll be talking about is that gut check. Deep down inside, even when I started for the first process of the most personal story that I've been talking about, just didn't feel right. Something was off, and then had an opportunity to be interviewing with my potential boss's boss, and he wasn't able to make it, and my potential boss, who I hadn't had a chance to spend much time with, didn't even want to spend some extra time with me and take the opportunity to get to know me a little bit better and ask me some questions and go
Wow.
over my resume. And
Mhm.
that right there for me was just like, yeah, okay, yeah, I I don't think I want to be working for you at all. So good
Something
luck.
I tell all of my clients, let's go review some Glassdoor. Let's go review what it's like to work here on different job boards. I know that there's some anonymous sites out there. I typically don't reference those, but I'd highly encourage people to do your due diligence. If multiple people are saying the same thing, it's a pattern. And that,
Yeah,
my friends, is what we call repetitive behavior. And people are experiencing the same things. The likelihood that you're going to experience the same thing, pretty fucking
Pretty
high.
high. Now,
So,
be cautious when it comes to these reviews because your
yes,
reviews that are
patterns,
yeah for
patterns.
patterns, yeah, but you also have to understand
yes,
that it also takes
There's
some time
disgruntled
for
people.
a business to change and culture
Mhm.
to change and the
sure,
mindset to change. So if you're looking
sure,
at reviews that are 2-3 years old, things could have changed. Have they improved over the course of the last 3 to 6 months? That I want to put out there.
Mhm.
And so just be wary of that. Of course, if
yeah.
they're consistent and you have, like Robbie was saying, they're there a lot, and it's just you're consistently hearing the same things, then yeah, definitely the one area that you need to look
There,
at.
there's nothing wrong with going to work for a company that you had a ton of red flags that came up during the interview process. Been there, done that. Knew that knew a little bit of stuff that I was gonna be up against. Knew I was gonna be working a lot of hours. There's gonna be some unknowns. There's gonna be a learning curve as well. But
Yep.
there, I took the leap and did it. You're still gonna be going for jobs that have a lot of red flags too. So um,
So what
that
what I
that
think
gut
here
check is
what I think
important.
here is that there is a, like, almost a fourth flag, but it's not really a flag. It's just your overall gut
Yep.
check, who
Yep.
you are and what it feels for you.
Yeah.
Because you can have these green flags, these yellow flags, these red flags, but what does your gut say to yourself? And I think, like Jesse was just saying, that I saw all these red flags. However, I was kind of up for the challenge. I knew what I was getting myself into. My
Mm-hmm.
gut said, "Go for it." So that's what you ended up doing. And it's just like, are you willing to do that? Are you willing to jump head first into the shallow end of the pool? And sometimes it's like you're going to hit your head, you're going to stumble. Are you okay with that? Is the company okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it was really being prepared to ask questions that were, you know, I was afraid to of the answer or afraid to ask because I didn't know how I would be perceived asking that
Mhm.
question as a candidate.
Right.
People
That
are
I think is a hard time.
people are conditioned to feel like if they ask the wrong question, they're not going to get hired. But
Right.
that in and of itself is a red flag, folks.
Yes.
If there's
Yes.
you ask why the person I'm replacing, why is this job vacant, and the person gets defensive or starts talking badly about that person, or we can't seem to keep anybody here. These are all telltale signs that you need to get the fuck out of this process and move on.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like, you know, if you're looking at those red flags and they're saying something to you and those little alarm bells are going off, that's your gut still saying, "Hey, goodbye. This is not for me. I can't do this." And
100%.
so that's just you got to figure that out for yourself. And sometimes, you know, you have to walk away because if you don't walk away, you don't know what you're going to get yourself into.
It's
You could be putting yourself into a situation that's worse than the position you're in now or that you were in, and that's not a good thing. So just
Yeah.
listen to all of these things and take all of it into account. That's the best thing that I can say. And my advice is just take everything into account. You know, listen to it. Listen to the way that your interviewers are talking to. Listen to the way that your gut tells you. Listen to what your past has told you. And it's just something that you would have to do. And that's, you know, when you're making that ultimate decision. What I mean, is that something you think that we should all do for just about everything? Just everything in life, not just a job?
Yeah. A little quick tip that I want to give people is if something feels a little off, go look up a company on LinkedIn and then there's a filter for people and just go through each person's profile. See how long they've been there. Go see how
yeah.
long they've been there. If there's a pattern of people, working at a place 6 months to a year and then leaving, it's a pretty telltale sign. But if you see a lot of people that have been there for over a year, people that have been there 10, 15, 20 years, that is something to really take into consideration. Yes, people are leaving jobs, but a good company is going to do what they can to take care of their their employees, the people that have been there from the very beginning. And I know that it's the new norm. We've talked about this on previous episodes, but if there's a pattern of people staying around and it's pretty plentiful, that's a pretty good indicator that that's a good place to work. People don't want to leave.
I would agree with
A
that.
good one for me is how a person reacts, especially your potential future direct report or department head. When shit hits the fan, when we're not meeting our goals, we're behind on timelines, project timelines, we're struggling with issue out of our control, when there's water pouring from the ceiling of room 415. How are they going to react to that situation?
Yep.
And you being able to handle it? And do they have the resources in place to be able to handle emergency situations like that? That's a
Yeah.
good indicator and good one to go over of when crises happen, what things do we have in place to keep
Yep.
the quiet during the storm?
And that's a true tell as well. Is like, what is it? The line of you can tell someone's true colors when they're under pressure or something like that, something along those lines. And
Yes.
I think that's completely true. And that's what you have to do is understand that. And maybe having that difficult question in your interview process can be that tell.
Mhm.
And so, the one thing that I would like to do to kind of wrap us up is have that one question of, what was a flag that you ignored, and did it end up costing you something in your own life or not? And I can say yes for me. It definitely the flag I ignored was we treat each other like family. And I know that was a huge thing, and I saw Robbie over here laughing when I said that. It used to be like a really big thing where everybody wanted to be treated like family. To me, whenever I heard that, it was you're going to do anything and everything that I ask you to do, and do it without question, and I can beat you down.
Pizza
And
party.
what was that? I missed that.
I said pizza party.
Oh yeah, whatever. Well, I'm not going to go there. But that was a flag that I kind of didn't want to listen to for the longest time. You know, quote unquote, drinking the Kool-Aid per se. And so, and that's to this day now, I can't stand that. And that was because it was a flag that I ignored. And it ended up costing me a lot because, you know, I got in a lot of conversations. I'm going to put that in quote unquote, maybe heated conversations of I'm setting my foot down, and that was not liked. And so it ended up costing me because I got in trouble. Is it a life lesson? Absolutely.
For me, the red flag is leadership that does not take accountability for the way that things are. They pass the buck.
100%.
The
Yes.
people that
Accountability.
blame HR, or the HR
Preach.
managers that blame the hiring managers, or oh, that's above my pay grade. You're gonna have to find out from this person. That's just deflection. And deflection to
Yes.
me is a huge red flag. And I pay very close attention to the things that my clients are saying when they're going through interview processes now. And I'm like, wait, run that back by me again. What did they say? And I just want to make sure that I clarify before. And I tell them be very mindful, because that is somebody that's trying to deflect and just trying to get you hired on. And they're not taking accountability for the way that the company operates. They're passing the buck. And people that pass the buck are the shittiest type of human beings, in my opinion. The people that don't take responsibility for their own actions and their own behaviors and the way that things are done in their own, departments. Take some ownership. If you fail, stop passing it off onto your team or a different department. Take ownership. That's my 2 cents.
For me, it'd be the red flags that I didn't uncover because I didn't ask the right questions. I didn't ask
very
hardly any
good.
questions during the interview process because I was afraid. I wanted to look at, like Robbie said, we are conditioned to be the most polished, perfect little candidate to be able to get the job and beat out others who they're also interviewing. That's the goal. And it definitely was red flags, yellow flags that I didn't uncover through asking questions. And the best interviews that I've had with people have been a conversation.
Yes. Yes. I love that. Have a conversation. It's not I'm talking to you. It's
Overlay
Exactly.
professional.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with that. And, to close that out, I would say that just making sure that the only way that we're going to change this is if potential employees, people, candidates, make a stand and understand that they don't have to accept the first job offer that they get. Yes, you might have to eat some top ramen for a couple of weeks, but
Yep.
is it worth not overeating, stress eating? Some people do that. Some people, whatever the case is, these are things that you have to really account for. Am I going to be overly medicated because this job stresses me the fuck out? That's, something you really should be asking yourself.
Pick up
The
a
only way that we're going to know that
second.
is if we push back a little bit and we remind ourselves that the interview process is two-way. You're not vying for a shitty job. You're vying for a place that's going to pay you decently, a place that's not going to run you into the ground, a place that's not going to make you feel like a piece of shit, where there's a mutual benefit. Both sides are getting a return on investment.
Yes.
Don't be afraid to stand your ground.
Very good conversation, gentlemen. I really appreciate the time today. I think it went by really good. I still find it funny that we brought up a lot of red flags as we were trying to talk about the other ones, but very, very good conversation. And the next podcast is going to be really interesting. And I think I'm going to like this one because I kind of like the conversation.
Ugh.
But again, it's about performance reviews. I know we've talked about that before, but this is going to be about the 9 box. And if you don't know what the 9 box is, we'll get into that next week. But what's the reality of a $9, and how does that actually work with in-app performance reviews?
A lot of people always say they don't want to be put in a box, yet we created a fucking performance review that has 9 of them. What the hell?
Yes. What box do you want to be in? And but no, you don't want to be in.
So we can train AI on how to do HR's job.
Oh boy,
That's
here we
fine.
go.
There we
Well,
go.
gentlemen, thank you very much for having such a great conversation. Come and give us our stories at stories@your2val.com. That's STORIES at UR, the number 2, and VAL.com. That is also our website, your2val.com. And I want to say thank you for everyone listening. Follow us on all of our podcast channels, YouTube, and just share it out with us and let people know that you really enjoyed listening to us. Any final words, gentlemen?
You should not have to talk yourself into a good job, folks. Just remind yourselves that. That's what I'm going to end it with. You guys have a great week, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Take care.
Bye, guys.